I was fortunate enough to be the son of one of the greatest salesmen in the world, in Merlin Weeks. He's my stepdad. He saved us when my grandpa built an empire and my dad lost it. And he wasn't living the gospel at the time, so consequently a divorce evolved and the most wonderful man in the world came into my life. He was a pharmaceutical salesman. We all moved to Idaho, where I worked on the farms of Idaho as a boy. I had the opportunity to do that, and we needed to do that because he didn't have the income to help us beyond sustaining our home and our family. So I worked on farms. I had wonderful experiences. This is one of the earliest of when I was a young boy. Mother, how old was I? 12 years old when I'd go, probably 11 and 12. But I'd ride the bus from Idaho to go help my grandmother that had bought this on contract. She bought the Red Mesa Motel. And I learned such great lessons from her. But I would help clean the rooms and things I could do. I couldn't get a job anywhere else as a boy. So as I cleaned the rooms in this hotel and do repairs, she had married a man that had arthritis, and he couldn't do any of the mechanical things himself. So he would tell me and coach me how to fix plumbing and how to change a sprinkler head. One day there was one of the guests that had been watching me work as a boy. His name was Lloyd. He was from the Las Vegas newspaper, and he published an article. My mom probably still has that article, but he interviewed me. He says, "Why are you so driven?" I said, "Well, when there's a job to be done, I'm willing to do all the work and take part and pay the price and do whatever it takes to get things taken care of because I want to be a recipient when the project is completed." He wrote up an article, and he called back and said that his article, he said, Brad Weeks, the little red hen from Idaho, is going to be rich. And that was an article that was good feedback on that thing. And Grandma Willie, she lost this hotel, but it didn't matter because she had everything. She had the optimism and the happy spirit. She was so happy everywhere she went, she led on her feet. And my mother inherited that same positive aura. And anything I've done in business, I've lost a lot of money and we've made a lot of money. We hope we've made more, but I learned from these early principles there. My brothers and I, we did, after learning those principles of sound work, we had fun. I came to BYU for 3 reasons. Number one, I wanted to have a good time. I had to save the money when I came home from New Zealand. I was so poor. This same grandma loaned me $40 to buy my first coat when I returned home. Because I was broke, to get a job working construction. But I saved up after a year. We came to BYU to have a good time. My brother Brent headed up the one in Provo. I did one in Idaho Falls. And my brother Brian had a dance club at Rick's College, BYU, Idaho now. But this was 10,000 square feet. It's on 9th East. The building is still there. Behind me and Stan's restaurant, where that commercial building is, on the east side from Gold's Gym. But we had a line 6 blocks long. We had Wolfman Jack, which is, if you've ever seen American Graffiti, the legendary DJ of the 50s was there. Yeah, Scott's laughing. It's true. We had the Ohio Players, which were a top 10 disco band at our grand opening. We had so much fun. And we had some pretty girls that showed up once in a while, so it was good business to be in. So the other reason I came to BYU is to get hooked up, to find the best of friends to network with. I'll tell you what, the most valuable asset in my life are the connections I made at BYU. I still work with all of them. They're my friends forever. And then the third reason I came to BYU, like you, was to get an education. I had, my brothers and I were wheelers dealers, and we had car stores. This one was Orem Motor on State Street. This facility, we just took this, still there. I owned this real estate. That was one of my stepping stones. I bought this car lot on contract. So I was making monthly payments because I didn't have a lot of cash. But as I would go to school at BYU, it was such a rich luxury. Stephen Covey was one of my professors. He sat on a desk like this, and he was so casual. He'd fold his legs and just rub his bald head. And we'd ask him questions, and he'd rub that head and think about it. And he'd come back with something so pertinent. And one of the dumbbell students in my class one day, this is like a 500 level class of organizational behavior, said, "Well, if you know everything, why aren't you rich?" You know, and he smiled back and he just said, "Well, you know, he didn't even defend himself. He didn't say, "Oh, I'm doing things of lasting value," or whatever, but I never forgot that. I thought he was rich in spirit, you dumbbell. Not to know that he'd be one of the most famous publishers of all time. But when I would learn a lesson from him, like keep the grass green, a principle that we can prescribe a practice, you're responsible as a boss, you prescribe a principle, and they figured it out themselves with the ingenuity. And I'd take that right to a sales meeting. When we had the car lot, I'd go and train my salesman. All this stuff Stephen Covey had just taught me at BYU. It was so productive. I had the best education of anyone I've ever met because I was working alongside of my brothers and applying every principle. Because when I'd sit there taking notes, I'd get excited when something could make me money. I love Brad. So when I'd hear something I could take to add to my profit line, I was thrilled to death and I'd put it right to work. I guess the fourth reason I came to BYU, most important of all, stand up, Stephanie. I'm the guy that got the girl, for crying out loud. She's amazing. Hey, this beautiful girl, I was just like you, 31 years ago, thinking I need to sharpen the saw. Why? Because I wanted the girl that everyone else wanted, right? I didn't want the girl that nobody else wanted, so I had to work hard at it. But I fooled her, and she's still with me today. So hallelujah. Her positive spirit, when I look at my peers, and if one thing, her happy positive spirit has blessed my business and my life and my family, my treasures, more than any other factor that has ever been involved with my life. Now when we got married, I actually traded 3 apartment buildings that I'd built for this home on Bull Drive. It's right up above where Word Perfect campus used to be, and it was paid for, 4,000 square feet. We fixed it up cute. We remodeled it ourselves, and I looked at my beautiful wife and I said, we had 48 apartment units that were nice units. They were bringing in income. The home was paid for. We had German cars. And I turned to my wife, I said, the family and I, it was just she and I. I said, Stephanie, are we just going to live this comfortable life? Or are we going to find a market and go for it? What did you say, dear?
We're going to go for it.
I thought that's what she said. So we did. We looked at all the markets in the country, and we decided that Arizona was the best place for us because we love to create, we love to build, and so we moved to Arizona. I need to show this. The reason I'm here to teach you about principles of lasting value is because it takes money to build temples. It takes money to sustain families. If you can become financially independent, you need to do the things that you're born to do. Elder Hammond, could you respond to that, please? Because of all your doctorate you've obtained and everything that you have learned and become, to what purpose?
To build the kingdom and to establish the family.
Exactly. He's taught us all that. This is a beautiful picture of he and Bonnie, when they were 50 years old. They went to Cochabamba, Bolivia as mission presidents. That's a terrible picture. I took it out of an old book. But anyway, these beautiful Bolivian children. Which city is this in, Mel?
It's on the Altiplano.
Altiplano.
La Paz.
Of La Paz. Beautiful. But there they are with those native children, but living the gospel and marrying such a bright light like my wife, and the sacrifice and service of both parents. My parents, Vernon and Bonnie, have been citizens of the year in Orem. They're just as serving as the Hammonds. But because of those type of acts of balance in their lives, great blessings continue to happen. David, our baby, is called to the same Cochabamba Bolivian mission that where Grandma and Grandpa served 30 years ago. He's there now. He comes, you girls get excited. He comes home December 17th of this year. But everywhere he's gone is traveling with his president through his mission. And his brothers have done likewise. Michael is here. Michael, would you stand up with Will Paxton? Would you, beautiful Whitney, you stand up, the husband and wife. You got to see Whitney's, both graduates of the BYU. Awesome. Michael did the same thing, was a fabulous record-breaking producing missionary. He and I went home after he was home for 18 months. Elder Craig Zwick was the area president at the time and asked us to tour the mission so Michael could teach them how to produce. We toured 4 missions together after he'd been home 18 months. How many times did you hear of that? Tanner, you stand up, son. Yeah, you have to. Yes. Tanner served in Korea, did the same thing. He's producing, connecting skills he learned from his mother. He was a fabulous missionary, top producing missionary. Sister Burton, our General Relief Society president, said so herself. His president's wife, Craig Burton, was his president. But great blessings in our life. But enough of things of lasting value. I think I'm here because you want me to show you the money. Is that right? Okay, let's say it. Show me the money. Let's say it. Show me the money. Yeah, there you are. That's it. I'm here to do it. I can do it. Because when I married that little bride of mine, I bragged I was financially independent when I was 27 years old. And if we can adjust this, how do you get that down or open that up? This, I'm telling you to take risks. The first home I bought in Provo, it's okay to lose money. I'm telling you the lessons that you learn from losses when you're young are more valuable than the profit you could have made. Because these early lessons I learned so darn much from. Do you need this to play with it? It's not going to pull up. That's all right. We can go to the next one. It's an ugly house anyway. But this little house I bought, it was down South Provo. I listened to the broker, and the broker, sometimes agents will tell you everything. This is the next one. But that first house, the broker told me, he says, why don't you buy this thing? And you and your brother can move in, and you get some of your buddies from the disco to move in with you, and you'll make money on the payments. I thought that's a great idea. I bought that house, and then we had cars up and down the street. The neighbors complained because it was an R1. It was an R2, meaning you can only have single families, related parties only, so my brother could stay. My buddies had to leave. The mortgage was too high. So I sold that home, got rid of it, lost money. So I'm thinking deeply, how do I add value? Because I'm a student, I'm learning all this smart stuff like you. And so I bought this little home on 8th East. It was right behind our disco on 9th East. And there's the deal. I paid $50,000 for it. The main floor rented for $500. That's all it was worth. You finance majors, Tanner's an analyst for PEG Development, graduate of the finance program in the business school last year. How about that? But anyway, so he's the numbers guy, but he would easily tell you that at a cap rate of 10%, $50,000 with a $500 income, that's all it was worth. So I said, I was a real genius. I looked at this house. This doorway was here. I thought, you know what, if I could get my sister and a couple of my brothers to help me jackhammer this floor out, because it only had a 5-foot deep basement. I'm a little taller than that myself. We could finish that basement. I could put in a basement in it. I could get basement rents of another $500. I'd have total rent of $1,000. Tanner, at a cap rate, what's it worth if you bring in $1,000 a month? $100,000, bam, 10 cap, 10% return on your income, right? But so I was so excited about that. I thought I was going to make $40 on this thing. So I got so excited. I put it for sale. I painted it up, and I advertised and advertised, and nobody with money would call me. Why? Why do you think that would be? It's kind of ugly, because it was an ugly duckling that I put some lipstick on. Even though it had income, it didn't have the romance. I looked around at my friends that had money, and because I was an understudy, I was always looking, wanting to learn, but I learned that a high roller would pay cash for a Rolex. He might pay $10,000 back then for a fancy gold watch. And my friends that were poor, that didn't have quite as fancy of taste, would buy a Seiko, and that kind of a buyer would shop and shop. They'd go to the mall, they'd try to find the best interest, the best price to save $10. And I started thinking about that. I want the rich guys to call me. I want to cater to the people that can actually qualify for loans and close. And so I got to figure this out. So I finally sold it to Wayne Tanner, the only action title. He paid me enough for this home. I made about $6,000 after blood, sweat, and tears. Working all night, I did all the work. I put, again, the kitchen, everything in it. So I was prayerful about it. I was really distraught. And I prayed over everything as the Lord promises. If we'll pray over every needful thing, even the crops in the field, it is His harvest that we can participate in. If you can remember that much, I always paid my tithing. I've always done my home teaching. I've tried to be faithful in things that matter the most. And I learned that it takes faith to pay tithing, not money. And beyond that, I've always kept a notepad at the side of my bed, like the great Henry Kaiser, the steel industrialist. And I have a thought comes to me, I know where it comes from. And Brad Weeks, as a man, won't remember it tomorrow. So I'll wake up at night. My wife will tell you I go to the computer sometimes at night. I'll write it down. And then, more important, when you learn as missionaries, you get the prompting. What's more important than the prompting, elders? Yeah, you act on it. You do it. You know where it came from. It's not your own thinking, right? So you do it. I had this idea with rich guys. I talked to some of my rich friends. It just came to me. It wasn't Brad's own thinking. Back then, all they had in Provo were apartments with shared bedrooms. I had rich friends that were sharing a room for $100 a month, and I'm talking to them and I say, if you could have your own room, what would you pay? I said, oh, I don't know, at least double. It's up to my dad. He's kind of a stingy old whatever. So I said, well, I knew he would get the money because he was spoiled already and he would continue to be spoiled. So I had this cool idea that wasn't mine. And I said, I'm going to build duplexes where they have single bedrooms. My brother's an architect. He helped me map some stuff out. You'll see these. These are back on the University Parkway behind where the old Albertsons and the new Walmart is. Behind there, these duplexes back there over by the Chevy dealer in that area. But anyway, we put this together. I built these buildings. My Uncle DeMore put a couple of them up. I had Nate Chappell, a couple other builders I found because I didn't know how to build. But I got bids, and I bought the land. I traded that house that I sold that Stephanie and I were looking at. No, it was some other properties when I got the land. That's right. But anyway, so I got a hold of the land. I zoned it into R2 because I learned a lesson on my first one where I lost money, that if I had the right zoning, the city couldn't come kick me out or my tenants out. I could have legal contracts. I wouldn't have any problems with the ombudsman's office at BYU. So anyway, I built these buildings. There they are. They had 4 bedrooms on each side. The garage, they were split level, 2 bedrooms upstairs, 2 bedrooms down, a cozy palace room upstairs was important, a main floor that was a little privacy, but a great plan. So I put this together. Here's the deal. I did get $200 a month, so I made $1,600 out of rents. Back then, Scott would tell you the interest rates were 17 and 18%. That's unbelievable. Yours today are 4 and 5. So I found a deal, I was inspired, that worked. We actually built 23 of these buildings. So I ran out of land here and I went down on 5th South, down behind the Provo River, right on the Provo River. Best thing about this investment, Stephanie moved in next door to me. I won. So I sold the first one because the Rolex scenario, Ann Schuster, one of my tenants, she just loved this neighborhood we had created, the ward. She told her dad about it. Her dad, Richard, worked at aerospace, made a lot of money. He came to town, I met him. He said, boy, this is beautiful. A rich guy was attracted to what I did for the first time. I said, well, it's for sale. He said, give me the numbers. I said, you make a lot of money. Ann's told me what you do. You probably could use a write-off. He said, I could. Tell me about it. Keep talking. I talked to him. He bought the building from me. I netted $40,000 on the first building I sold. I was a junior in college at that time. I walked around campus thinking I was a rock star. You know, I had 40 grand in the bank. I wanted every pretty girl to know it. You know, I didn't know how to tell them, and I used to have Stephanie type contracts for me when she lived next door to me. When I'd buy more land or when I'd sell a building, she didn't get it. She'd just, here you go. I hope this works for you. I'm on my way. I got a date. See you later. So anyway, it all worked out. Oh, back. There you go. We moved to Arizona. We found the best market in the world, we thought, for us. The market was robust for 20 years. It was straight up appreciating market. We went to Phoenix. Michael remembers this house. He was a little toddler at the time. Mackenzie was a baby in this home on Kachina Circle and Corey Estates. I learned that I could duplicate my efforts at this time in my life, and I learned through the single bedroom duplexes. So I built this home here too. It's the same plan, different elevation. I built them both at the same time. I sold down in Provo. I had enough cash to build both of these homes. But being a farm boy, I couldn't pay someone for like a drywall bid when I knew half of it was labor and half was materials. So a lot of the labor on this, I hung the drywall. I'd work all night. I'd tape it. I was a painter. I learned as a boy. I rebuilt cars. When I was in high school, I'd fix up remodeled cars or crash cars. I'd buy them cheap and fix them and make them to where you couldn't tell they'd been wrecked and make money. I made enough money to pay for the mission in those early years. It paid off. So I worked day and night to create as much equity as possible. So we sold those homes, and it was a very positive experience for us. Where's this click? Oh, there you go. So, out of all this, what did I learn? I learned the school of hard knocks. I knew I'd lost a lot of money. I'd made a little, I saved up and I'd worked my soul out. But I only wanted to do the stuff that produced. What does every money manager you've ever met talk about? You've had them here before. They talk about a what? A model, right? People that are successful all get very, very good at one thing. They specialize. I'm an expert in real estate investment. I am an expert at protecting the asset. I'm an expert at managing the asset to where it'll continue to have income, residual income. But so I came up with a model. My model is very, very simple. I came up with this. So if I have 20% equity in the deal, I don't want to do a deal like the single-family bedrooms. I told you I made 40-ish out of an 85 investment. That's a pretty good. That's more than 20. But if I don't see 20%, I stay home. It's not worth my time. I'm a specialist. I look at 1,000 deals, and I only do the ones that make sense. Their deals are like buses. They come and go every day. I'm such a professional. I can look at it and see it. I can see the light. I can put it to my test. So that's all kinds of things fall under this model that have made us successful. That is a problem again. If you can look at that and see. But anyway, it's not going to work. It's all right. It's okay. No worries. This shows several homes listed. This is the S&L crisis Scott talked about a little bit. In 1989, we had an S&L crisis where it was only regional in the West, meaning that Texas, Arizona, some of Las Vegas, the western states were unregulated savings and loans. And so there was an open checkbook for a lot of developers. How much time? Okay, perfect. Open checkbook. We got overbuilt. And so it was like a candy store for us back then in 1989. And I was so hungry, but I was a builder. Remember, all the product you've seen so far has been new construction. So I looked at my model. I got so excited I could buy this land for so cheap. I bought a subdivision of 42 lots in Mesa for $1,900 a lot. And I knew the developer, Alan Fuller. He told me that his costs for the sidewalks, curb, and gutter were just about $13,000. So as a builder, I was so excited because I was going to be able to create this product for so cheap because I had builder mentality. But the smart investors, I learned from watching that market cycle when things were on sale, they bought buildings. Why are buildings better than land if it's less than replacement cost? Well, if this was here, I could show you clearer, but if you have free land is one thing. But if the price is marked down for the duplex I talked about, let's say $100,000 on my model, if the price is marked down to 50% or 40%, at $40,000 I could buy that house for, the lot cost more than $40,000 or at least that much. You not only get free land, but you get half the building for free. So if you can buy for less than replacement, get free land and some free sticks and bricks while you're at it. And anybody that was smart that would buy from banks in 1989 just made huge margins. I bought my land. I was really smart. But all the other builders that bought land for $1,900 a lot, guess what they did with their lots? They built. They competed with Brad. And so by the time we marked up our sticks and bricks, the same old game, we each put 10% on them. And that was our potential profit because that's what my competitors offered product for. If I would have bought houses at with half the house paid for, I could have held it until the first home went vertical. After the first home went vertical, then Tanner, what's the old product worth if once you have new product go up next to it? Yeah, exactly. Whatever the last one sold for. So anyway, this little formula, I call this a theory because when the 2008 subprime crash came, you know what that is? That's where everybody got loans without qualifying. Subprime means that they were unregulated loans. You could get 100% financing. The country was full of them. It was full of them. So anybody that made money in this subprime run in 2008, which is a global meltdown, is regional last time. This is a global meltdown. Anybody that understood that, it's called theory. You think about it and what happened in the past. So I knew well what happened in the past and where I missed and where I needed to be to score in the second market. Those that were scratching their heads here didn't live this. And anybody that is new in the market, like you youngsters, if you look at historical, what happened in these two major markets, and you see another one, study it, you can figure exactly what will happen. So this, I'm saying, and another thing on my model, I do the due diligence. My sons have heard me say, I don't trust anybody. I trust them with my life, but I don't trust them with the experience that I have. I want to see the math. I want to see through the due diligence everything myself, because you remember my first deal, that the broker said I could have tenants, and it wasn't zoned for that. I've been burned before. I might get killed once, but I'm not killed twice. That's why I'm still alive today. So due diligence is huge. And when you tie up a property, Scott, have you ever bought a property where after closing you got a refund if something was ugly after you bought it? No, and no one will. Why? Because when you buy a property, you get a mortgage, the title company gives you insurance, they issue the loan, they fund all their money, the bank's money on top of that, and you guaranteed you're going to pay it. There's no backing up. So, but on the flip side of that, with due diligence, I'm so good at it. When I tie up properties from banks can write down principal amounts all they want. Individuals can't. If you have a friend that's distressed in their home and they owe $100,000 and you want to buy it for 80, do you think you can do it if they owe 100 to their lender? So there's ways to work through those kind of things, but I do the due diligence so thorough. I'm good at it. You have to. No picture here either. That's all right. Alyssa will help with that. This shows a jailbird that looks like me behind bars right here in the picture. I'm telling you, the funnest thing in the world, I can teach you how to steal without going to jail, because it's legal and it's honest and it's ethical. But in bad times, we buy for less than replacement cost. That's in my model, and we're good at it. It's the funnest thing in the world. Again, when banks, there's ways that they write down properties that will work for you. Here you go. Okay, the banks can write it down because they've got the gold, they make the rules. The golden rule is they can cut any amount owed any time for you. Are you interested in stealing a house or that you'll live in, or a rental property? Do you have any interest at all? Are you with me? Okay, here you go. This is it. This shopping center, Michael went down here with me. This is in Las Vegas. And we bought the note. There's ways to get deals. We bought the note. The note was in default, so we bought it from the lender. And we got probably, a 70% discount. We bought this shopping center for what you see here for just a little over $7 million. The dumbest thing we did was, as soon as we got to the real estate meeting, we foreclosed and got the title. It was only about 45 days off. As soon as we got the title, we flipped it and made like 40%. But if I still own that property today, it would be full, because a lot of the big box in the back was empty. And I can tell you all about the appraisal and how we beat the bank down on their note, because I have an education. I got an SREA appraisal at Brigham Young University. I studied finance at BYU. I have a contractor's license, and I've had in 3 states. I know my stuff. So when I find the dirty laundry, I can make a real case to a bank board of why it's worth less than what they think and dream they're going to get out of a property. So short sales, foreclosures. I bought properties that I built at trustee sales for 30 cents on the dollar. Stuff that I paid for the land and the sticks and the bricks that I bought for that kind of a 70% discount that we bought during the downturn in trustee sales when there was a glut of homes flying across the auction block. Short sales, you know how that works? You find a buyer that owes, your friend that owes $100,000, you talk them down to 70. You sign a contract with them and you're willing to pay that. You take it to the bank and the bank looks at it. You prove to them that's only worth 70. They'll sell it to you for 70. You made 30 grand. How much time? So I've got some cool stuff. This, in good times, you build and create. This is cool. Looks like, Tanner, looks like you left the boat out again right there. But anyway, this is a little crib. I love the people that live here. But my brother Bruce is the best architect that ever lived. He's made me a lot of money because he's just so talented. But in good times, you build and create. Rancho Santa Fe, we went to California. Mom and Dad Hammond, we all stayed in this house, didn't we, years ago? And what are the years ago? 1992. My brother Bruce was the architect of this again. We had in Rancho Santa Fe, the most exclusive, the Beverly Hills of Southern California. We got the best elevation of the year, the best design of the year, the best curb appeal. We won all the awards from the most prestigious homeowners association in the country. It was fun. Creating is fun. In Park City, we built a lot of homes. This is a beautiful Aspen Springs Ranch looking back at the mountains. We built beautiful cabins. At the same time we were doing all this stuff, having this fun, some of the finishes inside our beautiful cabins where we had an eye for detail. You can't match them to beat them. You've got to be better. And so I'm telling you, when you specialize, you find your model, you be the very best in the business, and you'll be successful. We mentioned this earlier. We had a lot of recognition in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley. We built most of these homes you can see here. They were elaborate, beautiful. But I couldn't move into one because I wanted to make the money. I wanted to show Brad the money. So I built them for years. When Stephanie and I when I was 31, we moved into one of these homes that was paid for in Arizona after making 20% per house. It takes 5 houses and you get yours free. Cool. Well, a little work. Financing of bridge loans. No more pictures. This is cool. How much time do I have? Okay, perfect. This is great. You're saying to me, say, hey, I'm a student. My family has no money. I talked to you about the principles that my dad taught me. We had everything that mattered. We had confidence. We had honesty. We had integrity. I'm a farm boy. I do what I say I'm going to do. It's nothing about the profit. It's about doing what you say you're going to do. So this, with financing, I met one of my roommates at college. I talked about networking, Rexburg, Sun American Mortgage in Mesa. I got all the loans I could from him. You can only get so many loans when you're 20-something. So I went to him and I said, I need more loans. I want to do more deals. We're on a roll. And he said, well, you ought to meet Les Nye. He did a public retail store called LaBelle's, and he's done some mining. He's got a lot of money, and he just likes to have fun with good guys like us. So I met Les. He said, okay, I'll loan you the money at 10%. He said, that's what I like to get, but let's see your plan. And I said, I'll give you a plan, because when you sell, let me teach you this. You keep it simple. Michael's always telling me this. I get carried away. I talk too much, as you can tell. He says, Dad, keep it simple. All they care about is what's in it for them. You know, they don't care about what you're wanting to get done for you, your family, or your sick kids, or what you might have a need. You know, what's in it for them? So I asked Les, I went to this with Les, and I sat down and I drew it on a napkin. It just came to me. I said, Les, I'm just a simple guy. I wrote it on a napkin. I said, here's the deal. If you want to invest with me, I said, the downside is the upside. What is every fear of an investor? Yeah, what's my risk, right? So I said, here's your risk, Les. If I fail, you win. And what does that mean? That means that the cost of the building, they were talking theoretically, we saw those pictures, they're a little nicer houses than this. I said, I need to borrow $80,000 to keep it simple, whatever the price might be, but I'm going to use my model. My model is always the same. I said, you're going to loan me $80,000. It's going to cost me. Here's the cost breakdown. I've looked at everything. I've done it many times. I'm a professional. We're not going to have any cost overruns. I'm the purchasing agent. I love Brad. Brad wants to make a profit. We're going to come in on budget. So I said, you're going to loan me $80,000. I'm going to build the house. And the upside is I do what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to pay you interest. What are you making in your bank, Les? He told me he was making like 3% at that time. I'll pay you 10, like you asked for. I'm going to pay you $670 a month while I have that money out. I'm going to need the money for probably 6 months. And so that's the upside. I do what I say. You're getting 10%. Is that a good deal? He said, I like that. So, all right, let me tell you. He said, well, tell me about this. What's the downside? That is the upside for me. And I said, well, it's simple. Downside, you foreclose. It's going to cost you a couple of grand to get it done for legal fees. Then you're going to sell the house. So you're in at 85, whatever. After a few closing costs, another couple of grand. You're going to make $15,000 instead of $670, and it's going to take you 3 months to do it. But if you're really smart, because I know you like residual income, you can rent this house. Here's a list of the rent roll for this house. It's $1,000 a month. And he says, I like the downside. Brad, you don't have to make these payments. I like the deal. He said, I like it so much. How about we start out with 10? And I sat back a little bit and I said, well, yeah, I can do that. Because my model also, when you develop a model, it's repetitiveness. My model was repetitiveness. I could figure it out. It worked once. It'll work 100. And I had all the energy. I'm a farm boy. You know, when the pipes broke, we'd fix them on site to get the water to flow again. We didn't lose our crop. So I took those ones, but this is classic. He loved to do business at the North Iowa Cafe. And all these Iowans like to meet out there. He was from Minneapolis, Minnesota. But that's where he loved to have breakfast, his biscuits and gravy, old school. And so I had our first meeting after we started the 10 projects, and Les liked to have a little update once a month. I went to lunch, it was actually breakfast with Les. He had 3 friends there. And they said to me, he introduced me and bragged about me, and they couldn't get through their breakfast without pushing back a little bit and say, Brad, we want to have some fun. Don't let Les have all the fun here. You know, for crying out loud, you're a farm boy. For you in education, it's a little bigger deal than it was for me. Today they click a mouse, they see all your badges. I was just a farm boy from Idaho, a BYU alumni that was a family man. I wasn't going anywhere. And all they could do is throw money at us. And so we had a great time doing that kind of thing. If I had one thing to do over again, every creative product that I did took so much of me. We did, it missed it in the slide here, some of the custom homes, but the customs and the creativity, down to the decorating and the cosmetics, not to match them, but to beat them. It took so much out of me. If I would have spent more of that time with residual income properties like I started out, I would have done multifamily complexes. We've tried to recreate doing some more of that kind of a thing. But if I'd spent all of that, we're well-to-do, but we would be billionaires if we would have stayed with our model and focused on residual income properties. Because truly, if you can keep the cash cows, once you have them, you know, you never let them go. I mean, these are terms that you'll never forget because they're so vivid and so real. And when you're my age, I'm 58, if you want to do whatever you want to do, you can do it. But more importantly, like my parents, if you're wise, you'll keep balance in your life and you will have financial freedom. So when you're called, when that day comes, I want you to get invested now when you're young, like I did, and when that day comes, you'll be able to go because you have the power and the freedom to do the things that you're born to do, the things that you're foreordained to do, the things that will live forever. I love the quote that what we do for ourselves will go with us, and what we do for others will truly live forever. It's a blessing for me to be the best of the best of my faith and share with all of you as students at the Lord's University. May His blessings be with you, inspire you. May you have the work ethic of a farm boy or a farm girl, that you can get the dividend like the little red hen when all the work is done, to be there to enjoy the shelter and the comfort when the storm comes. If you'll be prayerful, if you pray over every needful thing, you will be successful, you'll be happy, and you'll have your family that'll respect you and love you forever, and that's all that matters. So that's all I have. But congratulations to you. How much time do we have?
4 minutes.
Oh, 4 minutes left. Any questions at all out there? I think we have 30 minutes after this if you want to stay, right? Any questions live right now? In 4 minutes. Questions? Yes, in the back.
For those properties you're talking about that you sold, how long did you own that? How much rent were you getting each month before you sold it?
Oh, which, the single-family duplexes?
Family and
Yeah. If we back up to that, it'd take a while to get back there, but I had $400 income a month out of that. When I went back to the math, I wasn't real thorough on. And so some of those I held for several years. Others, when it's hot and you have an opportunity, opportunities come and go like you learned as a missionary. You know, people get hot and they'll get cold. When they're hot, you talk about baptism, you talk about committal, you talk about making changes in their lives to keep them progressing. So if I had interest in any building at any given time, when I was building my career, everything was for sale. But the truth is, if you're getting $400 a month on a $85,000 investment, that's great income. So I could have kept them forever. And a great question, because if I would have kept those properties I talked about, that one vehicle loan, most of those loans were 15-year amortizations. Rents do nothing but go up like the cash cows. They go up every year, but what you pay for the property can't change. And if I had those properties, a 15-year amortization, they would have been paid off now for 16 years. That one vehicle loan would have been enough for any 2 or 3 families to live on. Next question? Anything else? Yes.
How much money did you fund personally?
How much did I fund personally? None. Zero. Good question. Because the $85,000, I went to Lionel at Wasatch Bank. He's now at Bank of America here, and he could tell you the story of that with the 17% interest. But I showed them contracts for my rich students at $200 a piece, $1,600 worth of income that they had signed commitments for on the leases, and I got an appraisal for $140,000 a building. And so I had the appraisal, I had my cost, I had the contracts, and they were comfortable to give me 100% financing. With back then, banking changes. Tanner studied finance. They'll tell you, I had sweat equity back then counted for lenders, what I would put into the property. So all those properties I created, I didn't put any of my own money into any of them. It was all equity, all on other people's money. OPM, a whole different lecture. Any other questions? Yes. Which one? Oh. Okay, the model on what? On the home in California? Oh, the loan. The loans. Okay, the fund. The model, if I could, I'll just say it. The model's pretty simple. The downside is the upside, meaning if I default on the loan, if I do what I say I'm going to do, he's going to get 10% interest payments every month. The downside is, for me, as the owner, that he'll foreclose and he becomes the owner, and so the equity is his. Instead of making the $700 a month, he's going to make $15,000 equity if he sells it, and if he keeps and rents it, he's going to make $1,000 a month instead of the $700 payment I would pay him, so he gets $300 more a month if he keeps it forever to rent it for a free and clear home that he was the first mortgage lender on, so he can foreclose on the house. So, but I tell him, you're not going to get that, Leslie. Why? Because I love Brad. I'm going to take care of business. I'm going to make all of my payments timely so I can make the 15 because I love Brad, no offense, more than I love your family right now. So I'm going to keep the money home.